So we're up to today's Daf Nazir, Daf Mem Vav, and we're holding in the sugya of the protocol of the Nazir that is being matar himself. We said he brings three kabbanis. He brings the chatas and oila and shlamim, according to the Rambam in that order. He's supposed to take a haircut by shave his hair after he brings the shlamim, and he puts soup from the pot on the hair, puts it underneath the pot and burns it. If he sends it from the Medina, we said it's a machlokes. If he sends it from the Medina, whether you burn it or not. I incorrectly told Shragi yesterday that you could take a haircut even before the carbon. It's not true. You have to wait till after the carbon. So ostensibly, you have to say he sends it after one of the kabbanas was brought. That's the way you'd have to say if he sends the hair from the Medina. Now, the shlamim is unique in a few ways. One, the shlamim of a nazir is eaten for a day and a night as opposed to 2 days and a night. Two, it's accompanied by chalois matzos and rikike matzos, 10 of each, right? And in addition, the kohen, as any shlamim, gets the chaz of a shaykh, the chest and the shaykh, the back foot, and he also gets the zeroya b'shela, the front foot. He gets the front foot that is cooked. Gets the cooked front foot. Okay, so we're open to the protocol. What do you do after he gets the zeroya b'shela, the cooked front foot? So we're up to the Mishnah on Mem Hey on the base of the bottom. Right? Let's say he's cooking the shlamim. That's normal cooking. Shalkan, that's overcooking. Well done. The kohen takes the cooked zroya mina ayil from the ayil, which is the shlamim, and then he takes chalas matzas achas mina sal for a kik matzah achas. He takes one of each one of the wave of the matzahs that are brought, the chalas matzahs and the kiki matzahs. The noisin al kape and nazir. He puts those two objects. Well, the actual three, the two matzahs and the B'sorei b'shela on the palms of the nazir. Umeynifim, he does tenufa. They go like a lulav, up and down, sideways. And afterwards, then the nazir would be mutter to drink wine and be metamal mesim. So obviously, this must be going according to Rabbi Eliezer, because we saw earlier in the Masechta that once you do the zrika of the dam, then he's mutter lishtes b'yayin. So as the Gemara is going to state, this is according to Rabbi Eliezer, who said tiglachas is ma'kebes, and we're going to see even further than that the final maisa is ma'kebes. Okay. Reb Shimon Aimer Amen Aleph Kimish shenizrek olav echad min hadamim. Reb Shimon says, and once you did this, let's say you brought the chatas first, and you sprinkled the blood, even though you didn't do the tiglachas, the haircut, or the tenufa of any of the final protocols that accompanies the shlamim, nonetheless, you will be mutter to go ahead and drink wine. You will be mutter to drink wine. And you be mutter to be metamel mesim. Obviously, tiglachas is going to take place a little later. Good. So that's the he argues on Rabbi Eliezer. Tanarabana. It says the pasuk says in Bamidbar Vav Chaf, the acha yishta nazir yayin. What does that mean? Acha maisim kulan. After everything, after all is said and done, after the tenufa of the zoya b'shela and the chalas matzos and the rakik matzah, in that case, after all is said and done, then his naziris is concluded. However, Divrei Rabbi Eliezer, this is the das yachid, the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. The chachamim, however, the chacham of the opinion, acher maisa yichidi, after even just one maisa, even after one maisa, we conclude as naziris. That one maisa would be the zrika of the dam, right? The carbon, the zrika of the dam, the avodas adam, for all intents and purposes, goes ahead and fulfills the mitzvah of the carbon. That one action would permit the nazir to drink wine and be metamal mesim. My tamay drabanon, right? What's the reason of the chachamim that you be permitted? Ksiv hacha, it says va'acha yishta nazir yayin, uksiv hasam, and it says in pasuk yutes, acha his galchay es nizroi. After his galchay, now it's mashma. His galchay is one action. So if literally it says after the one action of cutting his haircut, then he concludes his naziris. The chachamim are saying no, mahasam, just like acha tiglachtoi is echad ma'isa yechidi is acher after one action. It's after ma'isa yechidi a singular action. Afkan, so too over here where it says va'acha yishta nazar yayin. When can a nazar drink yayin? Ach the one ma'isa. And what ma'isa is that? The one ma'isa that would make the most sense is the ma'isa of the carbon. So we have a gezer shava acher. Just like acher tiglachta is describing one action, so to acher yishta, when can he drink? After one action. And what's that one action? The act of zrika of the carbon. The act of the zrika of the carbon. Fred the Gemara, the ema ad ikat shavayu. Why don't we say you need both? You need the carbon and the haircut. Says the Gemara, Yehachi gezer shava lamali. Then what do you accomplish with acher? If you need both, that's two actions. The whole gezer shav of acher, guys, is one action. So you can't say it's two possible actions. You can't say it's two possible actions, right? So we have a machlokes. We have a machlokes between in our Mishnah that said that after you finish everything, only then can he drink. That's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. But according to Rav Shimon say no, if in one action. So the brisa that we just concluded, Rav Shimon is the Chachamim. Rav Shimon would be the one who would learn the Gezer Shava of Acher. If the one Maisa, the Iker Maisa, which Maisa? Not Acher Tiglachtai. That's just, Acher Tiglachtai just goes ahead. Just like Tiglachas is one action, so to Acher Yishte is one action. Acher. What's that one action? Not the Tiglachtai. The one action is what? Is the action of bringing a carbon. So Rav Shimon, the brisa, even without mentioning the name of Shimon, the Chachamim are explaining the din of Rav Shimon. That the din of Rav Shimon, that after one Maisi Yechidi, the Aisha Srika, that's the opinion. Okay. Says the Gemara Vaita. Amar Rav says Rav.
Just a question. So if you brought, we talked about in the past, so if you brought the Chatas first and you did these actions, it would be okay? And you didn't wait till the end? You did the Taglachas. After you brought the Chatas, you didn't wait. We said yesterday that you anyone who's tiglachas in the chatas, you would be yaitza. Right. That was what I was asking. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Any one of the kabbanas, tiglachas or the oiler.
Right. Even you bring it in the order.
You'll be yaitza in the midst of giluach. Good.
Okay.
Now, the final concluding action was tenufa, guys. So let's go through the protocol. He brought all three kabbanas. Right? He cut his hair. He souped up the hair. He burnt it under the pot. He removed from the pot the cooking zraya, took one of the rekikin, took one of the chalois, put it all together in the hands of the Nazir, and the Kohen, they did that. Good. Is the tenufa a crucial part of the Naziris, or is it an ancillary part of the Naziris? I would say it's an ancillary part of the Naziris. Is it ma'akiv or not? In other words, would it stop the Nazir? Would it be ma'akiv or not? Right? Would it be ma'akiv him from drinking wine be metamal mason? Pashtus from our Mishnah? No. Pashtus from our Mishnah, according to Rabbi Eliezer, yes. According to Rabbi Shimon, no. Correct? Like Rabbi Eliezer, guys, what does Rabbi Eliezer says? Acha maisa kulam. A tenuf is a maisa. Like Rabbi Eliezer, you'd have to finish soup to nuts. So if you didn't do the tenufa, like the chachamim, l'chayra, if the zrika, which of a carbon takes well placed before any of the other protocols which you just listed, says Rav, Amar Rav, tenufa b'nazir ma'akeves. The tenufa of the nazir is ma'akev. In other words, unless you do the tenufa, you can't drink wine. You can't be metamal mason. Now, aliba deman, who are you going according to? If you're going to say according to the Rabbanon, Tiglachas amas Rabbanon lama akva, tenufa mi boy? Fellas, what did the Chachamim hold? What did Rav Shimon hold? When you brought the first carbon, second carbon, third carbon, and you did a Maisa Zrika as one action, you're good. So if taking the haircut, which is a major part of the protocol of Naziris, is not ma'akiv, certainly the tenufa, which is an ancillary part, after all is said and done, is not ma'akiv. So what's Rav the Amor is saying? It can't be according to Chachamim. Clearly the Chachamim would hold that tenufa is not ma'akiv. It does not stop me from drinking wine to be metam l'meisa. Ella, it must be Aliba the Rabbi Eliezer, who said you need everything. Fred the Gemara Pshita, Ha'am Rabbi Eliezer, Acha Maisa Kulam. So the question is, what's Rav's chiddush? Miman of Shach. Like the Chachamim, of course it's not ma'akev, tenufa. We don't care. Not chas v'shalom, not that we don't care, but it won't stop me from being metam l'meisa and drinking wine. Because why? I just have to do a zrik over carbon. And even cutting the hair, which is a major player, is not ma'akiv. Certainly tenufa, which doesn't seem to be such a major player, is not ma'akiv. Rabbi Eliezer, Rav, you tell me you chiddush Rabbi Eliezer? Rabbi Eliezer dusk is up. He said that openly. If everything is finished, then you can go ahead and be metam l'meisa and drink wine. So what's the chiddush of Rav? And for the Gemara, the chiddush is in Rabbi Eliezer. Here's the chiddush. Ma'al detema kibin l'in kapara shiyori mitzvahi. Taisvis shiyori mitzvahi. That means a remnant of a mitzvah. Kida Omar Perikamed Zvachim, like we comment in the first parak of Zvachim, Daf Vavam Beis, Shem Asa L'Tnufa Shiari Mitzvah. You made the Tnufa Shiari Mitzvah, meaning you didn't do it. I made it, guys, like Shirayim from a Rebbe, right? You have leftover Shirayim from the Rebbe. So I made Tnufa Shirayim. What does that mean? I made it Shirayim. I didn't do it. Good. Kloimar Shaloyasa. I didn't do it. I might think that you don't get a kapara, since I didn't do the mitzvah in the best possible way. It does the ema keves. In other words, in a place where you have to do tenufa, let's say by I'm thinking, where do you do tenufa? Off the top of my head, I don't remember. Maybe a toida. Off the top of my head, I'm not remembering. Wherever you have to do tenufa, wherever you have to do a waving. So let's say you made the waving shiari mitzvah. How did I make it shiari mitzvah? I didn't do it. Shiraya means leftover. I have something and I left over. So here I have a carbon and I left over the act of tenufa. I didn't do it. The Gemara says that what? It's not, meaning the kapara is still a kapara. It works. So says the Gemara now, since we see by all other places where you have to do a tenufa, if you don't do it, it's not a problem. I might think by Nazir as well, it's not a problem. Kemashmal on Rabbi, it's a problem, like Rabbi Eliezer. Let's see it inside. Says the Gemara, I would say, Skiva on the linear kapara. Shiari mitzvah, regarding getting a kapara.
I think the Omer does tenufa. You do the tenufas with the Omer. Then you do that with the carbon Omer.
Yeah, yes, that is true. That is true. So now, since keeping the linear kapara, shiari mitzvahi, hachanami loy ta'akiv, I might think, therefore, since it's not crucial, I don't know, carbon, oim is not for kapara hesh. You have to look up the Gemara in Zvachim. Okay, there's no kapara with the carbon oim. It's a matir. It's a matir. Again, it's a side point, okay? I'll look it up. It's a side point. Let's not get off. So now, you're telling me that if you don't need it for the kapara, so I would think I don't need it for the Nazir to drink wine and metal mason. So hachanami by Nazir as well, loy ta'akiv. Kamash malon on the base, kamash malon that it is ma'akiv. Good kamash malon smak. Okay, now Gemara gets a little difficult now, guys. Okay, let's go to again over. Let's go over Rav's din so we get a total understanding. Rav says the following: the final act of the Nazir is the waving of the Zroya B'Shela with the Chalas Matzah, the Kik Matzah, the Kohen waves in the hands of the Nazir. Says Rav, if you don't do it, he can't drink wine. And he can't be Metam Mason. So his Nazir is not over all intents and purposes till then. He's saying it according to? Clearly Rabbi Eliezer, because like the Chachamim, it's over earlier. Good? That's the Chiddush. Rabbi Eliezer said that. He said, until you do everything. Says the Gemara, the Chiddush is that you would think, since by other places, that the Tnufa is not Ma'akiv, it's not a car, it's not Machaper, so therefore my Nazir it should not be Ma'akiv. Kemash Malon, that it is Ma'akiv. That's Rav's Chiddush. Fred the Gemara on the base, Umi Ma'akva. Is it Ma'akiv? V'hotanya, zois toiras hanazir. Now, when it says zois toiras hanazir, meaning this is for every single nazir. Torah is a lashon of, this is the Torah, guys. Zois chukas, we're going to have Parshas Parah. We're learning Parshas Parah this week, right? Chukas, that this is the chayk of Parah. This is the Torah of the Parah, all Parahs. So this is the Torah of all Nazirim. Ben sheyesh lekapayim, whether he has palms. Ben she'en lekapayim, whether he doesn't have palms. So now we're making a hekesh between someone who has palms to someone who doesn't have palms. Just like someone who doesn't have palms, you don't have to do tenufa because he can't. So too, someone who does have palms, you don't have to do tenufa even though he can. Again, that's the kasha. We're going ahead and we're making a hekesh. Zois toiras, meaning it's one chalent. And what's the chalent? A person who has hands is compared to a person who doesn't have hands. Just like a person who doesn't have hands, clearly it's not ma'akiv because he can't do it, right? So too, a person who does have hands, he doesn't have to do it. We're making a hekesh, the one who has to the one who does not. Again, that's the havamin of the Gemara, guys. The havamin of the Gemara is we're making a hekesh between the one who has hands to the one who doesn't. Just like the one who doesn't does not have to because he can't, so to the one who has hands who could does not have to. Good. That's the kasha. So therefore over here also, like Rab, it should not be ma'akiv. Ve'elaha Tanya. 1 second. If you're telling me this is the way you're going to make a hekesh, 1 second. Zois taras hanazir ben sheyesh loy seir ben she'en loy seir hachanami deloy ma'akva. Guys, outside. Let's go through the protocol. Just like the person who doesn't have palms, you don't have to do it. So to the person who does have palms, you don't have to do it. Now, what about a nazir who's bald? So here's what you would say. Just like the nazir, right? Just like the nazir, you're going to tell me that the nazir who doesn't have hands, doesn't have hair, does not have to do it. You're telling me the nazir doesn't have palms, doesn't have to do tenufa. So you would tell me the nazir who's bald does not have to go ahead and at least take a razor and put it over his head, correct? That would be the corollary. That would be the parallel. The parallel would be, he doesn't have palms, he doesn't have to do it. He doesn't have to hear, he doesn't have to do it. 1 second, it's not true. But Tanya, nazir memurit, a nazir that's bald. Beishamay oimrim, ain't it tzarich lahavet taral reisha, you don't have to put a razor over his head. Ubeishil oimrim, tzarich lahavet taral reisha. You have to. Good. Now, we pass like Beis Hillel, correct? Always. And now Beis Hillel is saying what? You have to do it over your head. So what do you see? You see that your premise that you began with, that a nazir who doesn't have palms does not have to do tenufa. So then why in the world does a person a nazir who doesn't have hair has to at least symbolically go ahead and put what? The razor on his head. So the Rosh is medayik. So if he doesn't have, so what's he supposed to do if he doesn't have any palms? So the Rosh says, let him do it with his arms. In other words, when he says he doesn't have palms, the assumption is he's not a total amputee. He's an amputee from his wrist. So he doesn't have palms, but he does have arms. So symbolically, put it on his arms and wave. The same way you're symbolically taking a razor and putting it over his head, go ahead, put it in his arms and wave. Meaning what? Since he doesn't have any hair, he's a nazir forever. He can never drink wine. He can never even tamal mesim. That's Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel, Beis Hillel, yesh le takana, right? And like Beis Hillel, you do have a takana. So what's the takana? As I just said, taking a razor over his head. So too by the nazir who doesn't have arms, right? You have a takana. So in other words, what are we saying? We're saying that your premise that you said that it's not ma'akiv is not necessarily true. You compared a nazir who has arms, has palms, to one who doesn't, and your assumption the one who doesn't have to, then it's not true because you see the nazir who doesn't have hair has to. So to the nazir who doesn't have palms has to. So therefore, why the taka could be ma'akiv? Therefore, why it could be ma'akiv, right? That's the point. Now, Beis Shammai that said Ein Lo Takana, he's stuck in his Nazirus forever because he can't be Mekayim the mitzvah of Giluach because he doesn't have any here. Behind the Reb Padis, that would be the same as Reb Padis. Dam Rav Padis, okay. Beis Shammai Beis Eliezer Amru Davar Echad. Beis Shammai and Reb Eliezer are the same opinion, which would make a lot of sense. Eliezer was a Shamuti. Eliezer was a follower of Beis Shammai. Guys, outside for a second, the protocol of a Nazir Asham Mitzayra. The Asham of Mitzayra, he brings the company with what? With a like shemen. He has to put on his right ear, his right thumb, and his right big toe, he has to put the oil and the blood. What happens if a guy has no thumb or doesn't have any big toe? What do you do? So this is paralleling the what? The Nazir who doesn't have any hair and the Nazir who does not have kapayim. Good. So what do you do in that case? So my Rebbe Eliezer, what's the Rebbe Eliezer that you're comparing to Beis Shammai? Because Beis Shammai again says you have no choice, you're stuck in a Nazirus since you can't be Mekayim in the mitzvah of Giluach. The Tanya, Ein Loi Boyen Yad. If the Mitzvah does not have a thumb for regel or a big right foot, Ein Loi Tyra Lamis. He's stuck, he's the Mitzvah forever. He can never touch him. he can't bring his kapara. Rebbe Eliezer, these are the words of Rebbe Eliezer. Rav Shimon says no. Yanichenu al mekomo. Go ahead. You'll put the blood and the oil on the place where his thumb would have been, on the place where his big toe would have been. The yatsa. No, you don't have to do it on that place. Yaniach al shel small. Use his left hand. The yatsa, and you will be yatsa. But you see, look, Rebbe Eliezer. Why do you see like Rebbe Eliezer, guys? You see like Rebbe Eliezer, just like Beis Shammai says, a Nazir without hair is stuck. So to a Mitzayra without thumbs and toes is stuck. Good. That's what we saw. Now, Yotzei B'Dvareinu, why did we come out over here? We came out that, in fact, it's Ma'akiv. In fact, according to Rebbe Eliezer, it's Ma'akiv. And the Chiddush was that even though that it's Shari Mitzvah by other places, you would think you would think otherwise. Kamash Malon. The Gemara asked, how can you say it's ma'akiv? What about a person who doesn't have palms? You see, it's not ma'akiv. Says, well, no, person has palms, right? We have a kasha on that from the razor of a bald nazir. Just like a bald nazir, right? You have to put a razor over his head. So to a person who would have palms, you'd have to do some action. So the you can't go ahead and make the hekesh right away and say, just like the person who doesn't have palms, it's not ma'akiv, so to the person who has hands, it's not ma'akiv. Ken said it is ma'akiv. Now, lishnach rina is going to be the opposite. Instead of asking on Rebbe Eliezer, we're going to go according to the Chachamim. Lishnach rina, emrila amar Rava. Let's say Rava. Tenufa bin nazir ma'akeves. The tenufa by a nazir is ma'akiv. The tenufa by a nazir is ma'akiv, you have to do it. That's the same as Rav. Now, aliba deman. Who do you say this according to? Ilema aliba de Rebbe Eliezer pshita. It's partial according to Rebbe Eliezer. Rebbe Eliezer said what? That any Maisa, you had to finish all the actions. So what's Rav is saying that I wouldn't know? Any action you have to finish. So it must be he's saying it according, and we don't, for some reason, we don't go ahead and go and say that you would think that it's different, like any other, same as any other tenufa. It says, so therefore, Rav's chiddush is not in Rebbe Eliezer. El must be aliba de Rabbanon. The Rabbanon who say what? That even after one spritz, you're yoitza. Now, 1 second. How can you say that? Hashli yishleim tiglachas amar Rabbanon loy ma'akva tenufa mi boy. The Rabbanon say that what? That the Rabbanon who have the opinion that tenufa is not ma'akiv. You're going to tell me that what? That the tiglachas is not ma'akiv. The Rabbanon who say that tiglachas is not ma'akiv. You're going to tell me that what? That they hold that this would be ma'akiv. It's kind of counterintuitive, right? Guys, it would not make too much sense to say that. If they hold if the Chachamim are of the opinion that a haircut is not ma'akiv, why would they think that tenufa is ma'akiv, right? In other words, it makes no sense to say it's ma'akiv. Why do you have to say that tenufa is not ma'akiv and this would not be like Rava, or not like Rav? So, Fred the Gemara. So you're telling me that tenufa is not ma'akiv, just like haircut's not ma'akiv. umi loy ma'akva. It's not. How's it possible to say that Tanufa is not ma'akiv? Tanya, zois teres hanazir, ben sheyesh lekapayim uben she'en lekapayim. Now we're making the hekesh the other way, guys. We're making the hekesh the other way. We're makish a guy who doesn't have to one who does have. Just like the one who does have has to do it, right? And if he, right, so too the one who doesn't have has to do it. So therefore, what? By that, we're saying it's ma'akiv. You have to do it. So this is hekesh is the other way. Says the Gemara. So therefore, it's ma'akiv, right? So the it's a kasha. The ella, I'll be mataritz you. Hatanya zeis teres hanazir, ben she yesh leiseir uben she'en leiseir. Whether he has here or he doesn't have here, hachanami, you're going to say dema akfa. Again, you would say the same thing. In other words, this is the exact opposite, guys. In the first lashon, we're comparing a person who has hands to a person who doesn't have hands. Here, we're comparing a person who doesn't have hands to a person who does have hands. Therefore, in the first lashon, we compared a person who didn't have hair to a person who doesn't have palms. And over here, we're saying, 1 second, it's the opposite way. That you're telling me that a person who doesn't have hands, right, compared to a person who does, and it would be ma'akiv, but 1 second. What do you see? You see that by a person who doesn't have seir, that it's not ma'akiv. You don't have to do anything, says the Gemara. You have a person who's bald, and what do we say? Hachnami, what are you going to say? The ma'akva, that if he's bald, he can never get out of his naziris. But Tanya, nazim, a murid, a nazir that's bald, beishama yoimrim, ain't sarich lahavir tal reisha, you don't have to do anything. Beisil loimim, sarich, you have to. Vam ravina, what's pshat? Might sarich lebeis hillel, sarich ve'in le takana. Sarich, and you don't have takana. So what do you see? That it is ma'akiv. According to Beis Hillel, what? It is, in fact, what? It is ma'akiv. Now, okay? So therefore, this is the way he's explaining Shittas Beis Hillel. So you see, according to that, it would be ma'akiv. That if you don't have hair, so too if you don't, it's substantiating Rav. That if you don't do Tanufa, it would be ma'akiv. Right? If you don't have, just like a person who doesn't have palms, so to a person does, it would be ma'akiv. That's what you would say according to Shittas Rabbanan. And what about Beis Shammai? According to Beis Shammai, ein le takana, yesh le takana. So now this is not like a padis. In the first lashon, Beis Shammai held you're stuck. According to this lashon, just pierce the razor over your head. And pligi Rav Padis. And according to this, he would argue on Rav Padis. So it's a bit confusing sugya which way to go, right? Lamaisa, the Tanufa, according to the first shita, its statements in Rabbi Eliezer, and you would think that Tanufa, according to Rabbi Eliezer, is not ma'akiv, similar to a kapara, kamashmon that it is. According to the second lashon, it's a chiddush of the chachamim that Tanufa would be ma'akiv, right? You would think it's ma'akiv, and because Beis Hillel says that why? Because a person who doesn't do Tanufa, I don't know. I'm not sure according to Shitas, this last Shita over here. I'm not exactly. That's where I get a little wavy over here. I'm not exactly sure. The big Toysus on Yom Aleph that I didn't go through. Okay, so but l'chayra, you're finishing off with a light Beis Shammai, light Beis Hillel, a nazir is stuck. So you would think Tanufa is stuck. Mashmalon that's ma'akiv. I don't know why. It makes no sense to me. I'll leave it to Rabban. Hashtag yesh time l'teglachas am Rabban le ma'akiv Tanufa mi boy. So the Gemara asks. So. Okay, I don't know. Sorry. Says the Mishnah. Gilach ala zevach v'nimtza pasel. Okay, so you took a haircut, you bought a zevach, and it turned out that the zevach was pasel. Let's say you spilled a dam and you can't do the srika, or it became tameh, or it became tameh. It became tameh, and you took a haircut. Tiglach le psula uzavachav le alulay. You would have to go ahead and count another, according to Rabbi Eliezer, 7 days, according if it was the day of Malois, and according to the Chachamim, another 30 days to grow your hair back, right? Because your giluach, which is supposed to be after the carbon, this is what I told Shragi yesterday, that the giluach, which is supposed to be after the carbon, You weren't make yaitza because you never bought a carbon. You never bought the carbon. The blood spilled before you could do the srika, or it became tamei, so you can't do it. So the mela, since that's puzzle, your giluach was puzzle. That's the first case. Now the halacha, the Gemara in Zvachim says kol zvachim sheshaktu shloi l'shma. You bought an oil shem shlamim or vice versa. It's a good carbon, but the baal has to bring another one. A chatas that's shloi l'shma does not count at all. So let's say he bought his carbon chatas, and the kohen bought it shloi l'shma. Okay, the kohen bought it shloi l'shma. Gilach ala chatas shloi l'shma. He took a haircut on his chatas, but the kohen says afterwards, I bought it shloi l'shma. V'yakach hevi karbanaisav l'shman, and he bought his oil and his shlamim l'shman. Tiglachtoi psula. His taglachas is puzzle again because he took the haircut on the. He wasn't his chatas didn't do the job, and zvachtalei olaloi. You know why, guys? Because since he's not a nazir anymore, since the kabbanis are not good, he has to make 3 kabbanis: the chatas, oil, and shlamim. Once he messed up the chatas, the oil and the shlamim automatically become not oil nazir, not shalmei nazir. They become nadavis. They become an oil nadava, giving a donation, or a shlamim nadava. So that's why they would not count. That's the way Taisus explains it. Again, one more time. He brings the chatas shaloi l'shma. Now that's puzzle. He has to take a new haircut. His naziris is not over yet. So when he bought the shlamim, even though he bought the l'shem naziris, and he bought the oil l'shem naziris, since he wasn't yaitza, it's like he's mechusas man, because he has to take another 30 days. So it's like he bought the kabbanis earlier. Since he bought the kabbanis earlier, he will not be yaitza. So like he's bringing him before this man, okay? That or next. Kilach ala oila shlamim. He took his haircut on oil and shlamim shaloi lishman, right? V'achkach hevi kabanaisav lishman tiglachta psula. It's possible. The zevach le'olaloi, and the zevach won't count because again, this is the shalmei naz. This is not a this is shlamim. This is like a oil shlamim. Oila nedava and a shalmei nedava, and therefore they're not kabbanis of a nazir, and therefore the glachas isn't good. However, there's a disagreement. Rav Shimon Omer oisay zevach loy alaloi, that zevach doesn't count. Whatever he messed up, avashaz zvachim alaloi, but that zevach would count. The other zvachim afterwards would count. The other zvachim, according to Rav Shimon, would count. Look at Taisus. Rav Shimon Omer oisay zevach shenishchat shaloi l'shma. You have to replace that one. However, he holds that if you megaleach on a shalmi. So what happened over here? Let's say the following. He messed up his chatas. So now automatically he's become non-naziris kabbanis. Because by messing up the chatas and taking a haircut at this point in time, he's going to have to count 30 days later. If he has to count 30 days later, he's not a nazir. So when he bought these karbonis, he wasn't a nazir. What are they then? What's the shlamim and the oila? They're nadavis. Good. Says Reb Shimon's of the opinion that you could take a haircut on shalmi nadava and oilas nadava, and therefore you don't have to bring out the karbonis. So you be yaitza. So that's the lashon of the Gemara. Let's see one more time. Reb Shimon Omer, oisa zevach, the one that he messed up, loy alaloi. Avol shaz zevachim, the remaining 2, in the case oil shlamim, that's the best case to give, would work. Why? Because even though they're non-naziris kabbanis, they're donations, they're nedavos, Rav Shimon's of the opinion you could go ahead and cut here on a nedava. V'im gilach al shlashtan, and you took a haircut on one of the 3, v'nimtza echa mehem kasha, nimtza echa mehem kasha, tiglachta kashera, v'yavi wat shar zevachim. Okay, what's this last case? Let's say he bought one kosher and the other ones were puzzle. And in other words, he bought the first carbon, good. And then he took a haircut on that first carbon. Good. And then he only messed up afterwards. Then it will be okay. So the im gilach al shlashton, meaning on the 3, one of them he was galuach and that carbon was bought correctly. V'nimtza echa mehem kasha, right? Kasha, the one that he bought on. Tiglachta kashera, the tiglachas will be kasha. V'yavei shvar zvachim. So in other words, if he brings all 3 and one of them was good, the one that was good he'll go ahead and connect to, and the other one he'll have to go ahead and He'll bring the other svachim. So I say, Meres, what do you see? Guys, Rav Shimon, who says, I can take a haircut on non-Naziris to Kabbanis, because I messed up the chatas, and I could bring my haircut on the Oilas Nedava or Shalmei Nedava, keyword being Nedava. Who is that? That's Rav Shimon. Where does he know that from? So I say, Meres, Ksav Rav Shimon, Nazar Shegilach al Shalmei Nedava, a Nazar that takes a haircut on the Shalmei Nedava, Yatza, you'll be Yatza. My timer, why you be Yatza? Damakra, V'nasan al ha'esh, asher tachas zevach hashlamim, and you should put the hair underneath zevach hashlamim. Now, shlamim is mashma, any carbon shlamim, v'lo kesiv al shlamav. Shlamav would mean his dafke, his shlamim, which is the aisle of the Nazir. You know, but it says the word shlamim, the Torah Shebek Balpeh is teaching up that it could have said shlamav, his carbon, but it says shlamim. It means any shlamim, even one that's not a Nazir carbon, even one that now is a Shalmei Nidava, you would be Yitzhak. Wish everyone a good Shabbos. Eretz Yisrael, enjoy. Mazel, Eretz Yisrael, Baruch Hashem.